Welcome to The Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Listen, we're going to demystify something truly fascinating, psychology. A lot of people, they think of psychology as this super abstract, heavy academic concept, like something trapped in a dense textbook or just confined to a therapist's couch. But today, we're throwing that perspective out the window. We're going to show you how psychology is actually a highly practical, everyday toolkit. I mean, it is literally the architect of the mind.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We've got a clear roadmap today. First, we'll decode the human mind. Second, we'll look at the four main goals. Then, we'll explore its branches and connections. And finally, we'll wrap up with psychology in everyday life.
All right, kicking things off with part one, decoding the human mind. Let's look at the actual foundations of psychology.
So, I gotta ask you directly, what exactly is psychology? When you hear that word, what instantly pops into your head? Do you picture a guy with a notepad asking about your childhood? Maybe you think of mind reading or analyzing some weird dream you had? Let's clear away those preconceptions right now and get to what the actual science says.
The word itself actually gives us a fantastic starting point. It comes from two old Greek words, psyche, which originally meant mind or soul, and logos, which just means study. So historically, people thought of it as the literal study of the soul. But wow, has the discipline evolved since then. Today it's stepped completely out of philosophical musings and into hard, measurable scientific reality. Formally, we define it today as the scientific study of behavior, mental processes, and experiences.
And that brings us to the core triad, basically the three main things psychologists actually look at. First up is behavior. These are your seen actions: talking, walking, smiling, crying. Basically, if someone across the room can watch you doing it, it's a behavior. Second, we have mental processes. These are the internal things, like thinking, learning, remembering, or figuring out a problem. And third is experience. These are your deep internal feelings and emotions: happiness, sadness, fear, anger, you name it. And the key here is that psychologists don't just guess about this stuff. They study all three components, using really rigorous scientific methods like careful observations, controlled experiments, and surveys.
Now, what's super interesting is how our basic understanding of humanity has totally shifted over time. There used to be this widespread belief, a myth, honestly, that the mind and the body were completely separate things, like they operated completely independently of each other. But the modern scientific consensus? The brain, the mind, and our physical behavior are deeply, intimately connected. They're constantly talking to each other.
I mean, take this incredibly relatable example. Think about when you feel really stressed out. Stress is an internal mental experience, right? But what happens? Your heartbeat gets faster. Your palms might sweat. That is a completely physical, bodily reaction. And this mind-body connection goes both ways. It means that things like positive thinking, meditation, or just mental training can actually improve not just your headspace, but your physical health too. It's a real game changer.
Moving right along to Section 2, the four main goals. This is the scientific mission of the field.
This perfectly illustrates how psychology is absolutely not about guesswork. It's a methodical, scientific process that builds on itself step by step. Step 1 is to describe the behavior, just observing it really accurately. Step 2 is to explain it, figuring out the why behind what just happened. Step 3 is to predict the behavior, anticipating what a person might do in the future based on those past observations. And finally, Step 4 is to control or modify the behavior. This is where the magic happens, helping someone change harmful actions into positive ones.
Let's ground this in a real-world scenario. Imagine a student dealing with severe test anxiety. A psychologist doesn't just jump in and guess a solution. First, they observe and accurately describe what's happening. The student is sweating, maybe totally avoiding their textbooks. Then they explain it. They dig in and find out there's this underlying deep fear of failure driving that reaction. Next, they predict that, without an intervention, this student is probably going to bomb the next exam. And finally, they work to modify that behavior through counseling, giving the student actual tools to overcome that panic. See, it's a very clear four-step path from observation straight to a positive outcome.
All right, shifting gears to Section 3, branches and connections. Think of this as the interconnected web of psychology.
Psychology is a massive field, and it branches out in so many cool directions. In the healthcare and well-being space, you've got clinical and counseling psychologists helping people treat anxiety or manage everyday stress. Over in performance and work, you've got educational, sports, and industrial psychologists. They might focus purely on things like boosting employee motivation or fixing workplace teamwork. And then in Science and Society, you have folks studying cognitive, developmental, and social psychology. It covers literally everything.
And what allows the field to be so incredibly diverse is its unique position. It literally bridges the gap between natural science and social science. On one hand, as a natural science, it looks at raw biology, the physical brain, the nervous system, all those biological processes. But on the other hand, it acts as a social science, zooming out to analyze complex human behavior inside families, schools, workplaces, and society as a whole.
Because it straddles both the biological and the social worlds, psychology plays incredibly well with others. The interdisciplinary collaborations are everywhere. It partners with biology to map out adrenaline responses. It teams up with medicine to give patients emotional support while they recover from major surgery. It helps the education sector design way better teaching methods. It even works with sociology to decode how social media is influencing us. And okay, this is the really cool part. Computer science. Understanding exactly how human beings think, learn, and reason is literally the blueprint developers are using to build artificial intelligence and smart voice assistants today. No way, right?
And that brings us perfectly to our final section, psychology in everyday life, the real personal impact. Let's look at the actual people working in this field and the very real, everyday problems they solve. A clinical psychologist is the one treating complex mental disorders, things like severe depression or phobias. But a counseling psychologist, they're the ones helping you manage everyday stress, maybe a rough patch in a relationship or career confusion. A school psychologist is on the ground actively helping kids overcome learning hurdles, and a sports psychologist is right there in the locker room helping top athletes lock in their concentration right before a massive competition.
Now, what's really interesting here is how psychology pops up in industries you might never expect. Take hospitals, they use it to provide absolutely vital emotional support to patients. In advertising, it's the secret sauce for understanding what makes customers tick. In defense, the military literally uses psychological training to help soldiers stay calm under extreme, life-threatening pressure. And in law enforcement, it is absolutely crucial for understanding criminal behavior and cracking investigations. Its footprint is seriously everywhere.
And hey, if you are a student listening to this explainer, or honestly, if you're just anyone trying to learn a new skill, pay close attention. Applying some basic psychological principles can directly reduce your exam stress, dramatically improve your concentration, and just make your studying so much more effective. It helps you build healthier relationships, make sharper decisions, and boost your memory. Really, you're learning the operating manual for your own mind.
So let's wrap this all up with one incredibly important question. How will you apply the science of psychology to better understand yourself and improve your everyday life? As we've seen today, this isn't just some dry academic pursuit. It is a highly active toolkit for navigating the world, understanding the people around you, and unlocking your own true potential. The architecture of your mind is right there, waiting for you to explore it. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer today. Keep observing, keep questioning, and keep growing.